Welcome back to Realize Your Potential with Mike and Travis. We are here for the last episode. I know you're sad and crying. But it's the last episode of the season. We want to start by just saying thank you. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for sharing the show. And thank you for those who have commented, whether you've commented in our YouTube or our LinkedIn, our Facebook. You've been a part of our community. Personally, the text messages, the love, right, Mike? It's been really awesome. Just really appreciate it. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And a huge shout out to our director and producer, Mr. Walker, who has put this together quite beautifully. And huge appreciation to you, man.
Thank you. Well, without the amazing co-host Michael Williams, like none of this would be possible. I mean, none of it would be possible. So, but we just appreciate everybody. We appreciate each other. The love is going. It's a love fest right now. Before we start, though, we always got to start the same way. Mike, tell the people what they got to do, and then tell them what this episode is going to be about.
So as usual, like, share, subscribe, send us a text message, let us know. And again, we really appreciate you all. So this episode is going to be a recap. We're going to quickly go over the different things that we've been talking about, who we've interviewed, quickly what their accomplishments are, some takeaways, and just sort of put a capstone on what it is that we've been talking about for the past. Is this going to be episode 30?
30!
Or 29?
30!
That's 30. Crazy. That's cool,
man. It's been a great ride. So it's been a fun season too. So can't wait to take everybody through that. And so what we'd like to do is take you through this, the idea of taking your passion and making it a reality. But there's an analogy that we'd really like to share with you that might help it stick home a little bit more. And so that analogy is like a house. Building your passion is building a house. And so I did a little bit of research. Me and Mike were going back and forth online, looking at a couple different things about if you wanted to build a house, what are the most important things that you would have to do from the moment that you discover where you want to build it or have the idea that you want to build it to the day that you move in, right? And so we really were able to go, gosh, this is just like building your passion, right? And so I'm going to take you through those steps really, really quickly, and then we're going to elaborate on those steps as we go and talk about how our show talked about those steps, as Mike talked about. So the first piece of making your passion a reality is identifying your passion. And this would be similar to identifying the perfect location for your home. So you've got an idea of where you want your house to be. You got to pick access roads. You got to pick, is it near the area that you want to live in? Is it in the right school district? Fill in the blank. And the reason that you have to be so specific about that is if this is where you're going to build your foundation, this is where you're going to build your home forever, you want to make sure that it's something that is really going to fit you and your needs. And as you think about your passion, that's similar, right? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this something I'm passionate about in a way that I want to put a bunch of my energy into? And so identifying a passion is like identifying the right plot of land to build that house. The second piece is getting your mindset in the right place. And we affectionately call that funds and foundations. Because if you don't got funds, you ain't building no house. And if you don't got a foundation, your house won't stand. And that's mindset. If your mindset is in the wrong place, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about any of the other stuff. It's just going to fall. The house is going to fall. And if you don't have the mindset, the currency to continue pushing through very tough times, then it's going to fail, right? The third piece of that is the value of help. And one of the articles that we were reading about building a home talked about assembling your dream team, right? Who's going to be my architect? Who's going to be the construction team that's actually going to build it? All of these different functions with building a house that go into it. And think about it. We are not even at the step yet of actually taking the materials and building the house. But we're 3 steps in, which are extremely important to making your passion a reality or building a home in the analogy, right? And so assembling the right team. And that's what I really think of the value of help is. Do you have the right people around you to help you build your dream and make it come true, right? And so there's certain experts that you might need to help you build the house that you want. The fourth piece of that is strategy and planning. And that's pretty simple to building a house. That's actually your designs. That's your plans. But that's also securing all the correct material that you need to build the right house. Now, the reality is, when you get to the land and you survey the land, or before you start building, you may need to make some changes to that architectural design, right? And that's where we put those pivot points in the plan, right? So once you start drawing the architecture, you're like, you know what, this is not going to fit my house. It's not going to fit my family. We've got to change some things and move some things around. And so that's really having those pivot points inside of your plan to make sure that it's right. And the last part of that analogy is the hustle and grind, which, James last week really did a great job of kind of taking us through what it means to hustle and grind. But that's the people actually doing the work. That's actually you getting your construction crew in place, getting, all the materials ready, and you start building the house. Because if you've done all this planning, you got all this stuff, but you don't actually build the house, you will have nothing to live in, right? So at a certain point, you have to execute on the dream. Guess what? During that process, you may be executing the plans to perfection, and weather could happen, right? It could start raining. Guess what? You got to adjust and change. And that's what we also talked about in Hustle and Grind is I did everything right. I assembled my dream team. I did everything. And then it started raining really, really bad, or we got really bad weather in terms of like a hurricane or something like that. And I had to adjust and hustle and grind. Well, you still can't stop with your plan to build your house because where's your family going to live? And that's the idea of stopping on your passion, right? If you stop on your passion, what are you going to do? So you have to push forward to completing your passion, building that home, so you have a place for your passion to live, right? And I think that's just a really great analogy as we were kind of looking through that, of how you can take all this stuff and button it up into a really succinct plan that you can go execute on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's start with finding or identifying your passion. And so we really started our journey with episodes 1 and 2, which were really about being able to execute your passion even during the pandemic. There were some really good takeaways from that about breathing and the proper way of breathing that Mike talked to us about. He also talked about in the early episodes about making sure that you're splashing water on your face to make sure that you're in the right frame of mind to think through what your passion will be. So I thought those were really great takeaways from some of our early episodes. The core identity, the core elements of identifying your passion were really, what do I like to do versus what is my passion? So what's the difference between liking to do something and finding my passion? I like playing video games. That's the analogy that we had, right? I like playing video games. It's really cool. I prefer to be doing that than a lot of other things. But it's not my passion in life. My passion in life is really more focused on what I work in right now, which is renewability, right? Renewables. And that is what I believe in, right? That's what I think will be good for society for a long term, or really makes me happy, or really pushes me. That's one of my passions, right? One of my passions is helping my daughter become as successful as she can be through sports, education. And I have 3 daughters, and so I'm always focused on how do I help all 3 of them become the best versions of themselves. My nephew who lives with us, right? And so being a good father is a passion of mine. And video games will never compare to being a great father and being a great husband and trying to fix the planet through renewables. Those are things I'm passionate about. So really being able to identify what is a passion and what is a like. So that's kind of the first step. The second step is really understanding how to be courageous in the face of fear. And Hal Lublin, who is a Emmy-considered voiceover actor who has accolades up and down the wazoo, we'll definitely put the link in the descriptions if you want to check it out. But we talked to him for 3 episodes. He really took us through his career achievements, but he also took us through when he identified that his passion was acting and how he wanted to get into it. But one of the things that he really talks about throughout those episodes is being courageous in the face of fear and how fearful that can be. And so that's also a little bit of mindset, but it's also just to even get to the point where you can identify your passion, you've got to be courageous on the inside. He also talked about something that was really, really important. And I kind of want to end this section with one of his takeaways. And if I butcher the words a little bit, Hal, I apologize. But he said something that was really great. He said, when you wake up in the morning, can you imagine yourself doing anything else? And that's what I think about when I think about passion. Is like when I wake up in the morning, what would I rather be doing? And so you guys know I'm very passionate about this, what we are doing today, right? How we are helping people. We're bringing growth to people. And that's really the organization that we want to create, is a learning and growth organization built on the fundamentals that will lead you towards execution. And so that for me is a passion of mine, right? And no matter what I do, that's got to be at the center of what I do. And so when I wake up in the morning, I can't imagine doing anything that isn't centered around doing that. And so that's kind of the wrap up of identifying your passion, or in the analogy that we used, kind of identifying the right plot of land to build my house on. And so now Mike's going to take us through the second section, which is, mindset, and making sure you have the mindset. And that's the analogy to funds and foundation. If you don't have the right funds, you ain't gonna build no house, and if you don't have a foundation, that's gonna fall. So mindset is really important.
You're gonna be a shaky warrior.
Important there. So Mike, take us through that section if you could.
For sure. So just a reminder, mindset is a set of attitudes and beliefs that influences behaviors and sometimes your emotions, right? And so through episode 9 to I think 17 it is, Travis, we talked to Danielle Slayton, Booker Harris, and Ron Fletcher. So Danielle Slayton, national champion with the collegiate level with women's soccer. She was drafted number 1 pick in professional soccer from the women's squad and the USA women's national team. So she has an amazing story, an amazing journey, and through all those different sort of accolades and experiences that she had to make sure that her mind was right, and she kept a positive mindset. The takeaway from talking to Danielle is the mantra, which is, what do I have that's going to keep me motivated in times are hard, to really make sure that my mindset is, I'm open, I'm staying positive, I'm sort of weathering these life circumstances that I'm experiencing. So she talked about that. The thing that stood out for me was when she mentioned on the USA Women's National Team, because we were talking about anxiety and sort of how, being on the world stage, like how that impacts people. And she said that the level of anxiety that people experience on that stage, for them as a team and her specifically, she looked at it as a privilege. So it was like, I have the opportunity to be impactful here, and wow, what a privilege, right? Which is really keeping her mindset for her in a really good space. And the other thing that she talked about was being able to control only what you can control, right? Which then sort of can take all these things that might get in our way with managing our mindset to something very specific that we can focus on, that we have control over. We then talked to Ram Fletcher, who is a super lawyer.
Lawyer.
And that's, again, that's a real term. And that's a term or an accolade or achievement to be nominated and selected by a group of peers in Northern California. From my perspective, that's amazing. So,
that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what Ron talked about in regards to mindset was discipline and setting a standard. And he gave amazing examples of how that plays out in his personal life and how it plays out with his successful practice in the Silicon Valley. And lastly, we spoke to the NCAA basketball head coach, Booker Harris. And the big takeaways there were, try your best to continue to have an open mindset. When things get in the way, being able to understand what's getting in the way of that mindset. And one of the examples that he shared was time management. Sometimes we get overwhelmed. Sometimes we lose sight of our priorities. And so being aware of that could be something that could help along the while, having pivot points in regards to managing your mindset, which we'll talk about pivot points later also. Which is always good in things that you're trying to do, is how do you anticipate something that might come up, or how do you experience something that you didn't anticipate, and then how do you implement something that's going to help you move forward. So it was a true blessing being able to talk to these folks they're at the highest level of their profession and or game, right? So it was really good to experience that and have that conversation with them.
Yeah, Mike, that, you know what, that is such a good section to really focus on, because the reality is if our mindset is not in the right place, like, we will fail. And that is a great roster of guests who have accomplished a lot, but also are really good friends. So really cool set of guests to have with us. And so now kind of moving into the third section, which is the value of help. And this is like assembling the dream team, right? Do I have the right architect? Do I have the right construction crew? Are they getting the right materials, right? Do I have all the right people to pull this off, right? And so this is the way this section was really broke down. We broke it down with starting with what are the different types of help you can get. And so we started with professional versus non-professional. Non-professional is more like mentors and different people in your life that give you advice, which are not bad. You definitely need those. Professional was more of, I want to take my passion to the next level. How can I get some experts to help me? And so that could either be a coach. That's someone who maybe isn't necessarily a subject expert in, they could or could not be a subject expert in what you're actually talking about, but their expertise is in helping you unlock the answers that are already inside of you, right? So that's kind of a coaching. Mm-hmm. A subject matter expert is exactly that. They may be a coach, but they are more specifically a consultant to what you already do. So they already know what you're in or what field you're in. And so that person could be a consultant for you. The third type of help might be physical or mental health. And so think of mental health like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist, someone who's actually trained and their job is to help you through mental issues that may be blocking you from realizing the things that are in your way to getting to where you need to be. Or, as we know, physical health is really, really important. And so maybe getting someone like a physical trainer that can actually help you get into the right physical health to help you reach your goals, along with maybe some sort of doctor that you may need to treat you for those type of things. So really understanding what type of help do I need. And so we had 3 amazing guests that helped us kind of explain, and as you can see up on the screen, the 7 steps that we said when you can identify when you need help, right? And so that's, you're not getting the results you need, don't know where to start, want to learn or challenge yourself, specific issues. So I'm having a specific issue, I need a professional to help me with this. Accountability or motivation. I'm training for something bigger than I typically train for, and then I just need overall support to get to where I want to be. And so the 3 guests that we really talked about, they were able to expound on these 7 things that we just listed that were there on the screen. Our 3 guests were, first we had Lori. Lori was amazing. She was the person that helped us become coaches. She is a world-renowned coach. She is a master level coach, which, one day we hope to get there, Lori. And she runs her own coaching organization, as long as training organization that helps people become coaches. We then talked to Jessica Rice, who is a personal trainer she has started her own personal training with body dynamics, good for youth, good for adults, good for everybody. Really talked about the value of keeping you healthy. And then our 3rd guest in that series was really amazing guest, Sabrina Hernandez, who talked to us a little bit about being at the top of her career, being a worldwide VP, and still deciding I'm not quite where I want to be. And so really why she got coaching to help take her to a level that was above where she already was, where most people in their lives dream to be where she was. But she knew that she had not reached her max potential, and it led to career change where she actually had more responsibility and a higher title, and it was just tweaking some things inside of her to identify that. And so going back and talking a little bit about Lori and how she started that section for us, right? She's talked a lot about the ability to humble yourself and understand that if you need help, reach for it. Don't be afraid, right? There's no shame in asking for help. It actually shows a sign of strength, and it also shows the importance of how important your goals or passion or whatever it may be to you, because you're actually reaching out to people that can help you. One of the questions we asked her when she was with us is, you're you're a world-renowned coach, and you have a coach. You've had one for all this time, right? Like, why? Why is it so important to you? And she said, I want to be the best version of me as well, right? And so it was really an affirmation for her saying, this is just something I need to keep me at the top of my game. It was really an insightful episode about coaching and the power of it. And then also she gave some tips to folks who might want to try that as a career. So great episode to really go back and watch. We then talk a little bit about the Jessica episode. And what I thought was really important about what Jessica talked about is a lot of her clients, she is the person who gives them the strength to get through and push through. Because especially during the pandemic and all of the other things, sometimes they can get bogged down and life can get in their way. And so her goal is like, cool, let me help you push through that. And I thought that was really a valuable message as a coach is that coach can be the person that helps you through those moments that the rest of life is not helping you through right now, right? And so she likes to be that for her clients. She also talked a lot about the importance of staying physically healthy and how important that's going to be for hitting your goal. And I think having a coach that can really speak to that is really, really important. The last guest we had was Sabrina, and she really dived into the idea of, I want to be the best version of who I am, and so therefore I am going to ask for help. I am going to realize that I don't know all the answers, no matter how much success I've had. There is more success for me to go get, and I want to unlock that. And I think if I have a coach and a support system that can help me get there, I know that I have the talent and the ability to get there. And so her episode was really inspirational because it showed no matter how good we are or where we want to be, if we have goals, strive for them, and there's people out there that can help you get them. And so I thought her episode was really powerful from that standpoint. And so I really thought that those were really some great points and great takeaways from the section on the value of help. Mike is going to now take us through strategy and planning. And so the analogy to the house would be, think about, now I've done all of that stuff. I've got to draw my plans. I've got to get the right plans in place. I've got to secure the right materials. But I also might need, which Mike will dive into, is some pivot points if the house isn't exactly the way I want it to be, or I thought I was going to be able to build a second story, but it's not going to work out the way I want it. And so Mike, take us through strategy and planning.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about the miracle question, and Travis, he was vulnerable. He put himself out there. I am going to be a professional snowboarder. So we talked about the miracle question and what that means, and then we transition into what the free association brainstorming process looks like. You have all this stuff going on in the house, like you just start throwing things in terms of, I want a family room, I want a living room, I want all these different things. Oh, and guess what? I want speakers in the ceiling. I might want a wine room. So it's like, all right, cool. Well, now let's start to craft things, in terms of what's reasonable and what's attainable, right? So then we went into, crafting a goal for Travis in terms of being the best snowboarder he could be, and or what we landed on was him actually owning a snowboarding business, right?
Empire, not a business.
Empire. So we were able to craft a goal for Travis. And with that goal, we had a main goal, but we also had some sub goals that sort of came up in that process. And then we developed a plan with pivot points, right? So as we develop a plan, we have to be able to have benchmarks or milestones to where we're like, all right, cool. Are we on track? Are we not on track? Are we hitting our deadline? Am I achieving this level of success with what it is that I'm doing with my passion or not? Is that a place to pivot or not? Do I have the right people in my circle? If that's part of the plan, and if not, then what do I do next, sort of thing. So, not to sort of breeze through this area, but those were the tenets of that strategy and plan that we sort of went through and shared with you all. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anything more to add to that, Travis? Or
and I would just want to thank our guest during that section, Ebony Gurndy, my cousin, coming out there talking about strategy and planning and really focusing on kind of the idea around, which I thought was really interesting. Her idea around passion being transformed into different applications of that passion, right? So the passion never changed, but the job might. And so understanding that your passion is bigger than what you do, right? Like it's not just the job that you do. It's kind of who you are, right? And that's really, really, really an important topic that I took away from her section. And then her being able to build in pivot points as she's so busy, always being able to adapt her plan and strategy to make sure that her passion never falls by the wayside. So I thought that was a really cool part of her whole section. So thank you, cuz. Love you.
Which for a lot of our viewers, it's important because we're fathers, we're mothers, we're sons, we're daughters, we're career professionals. It's like, how do we continue to evaluate if we're on our right path, and do we need a pivot or not, or right? Or how do we give something that we're good at a little bit more juice because we're moving in the right direction,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was great. And then the last piece is hustle.
And last,
the last piece is look at my board, right? Boom, 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 hustle and grind, right? And making sure that you execute your plan. And so we really talked about, thank you for joining us for our live. We really focused on this concept of hustle and grind leading to the execution of your plan and everything that you put in place. If you think of the house analogy, this is now putting the nails in the wood and getting everything actually built. This is it, laying the actual cement. You got to actually do it, because the reality is if you do all those great things for your house, but you never actually build it, then you won't have one. And that's what hustle and grind is really about, is like building your passion, right? Because you can talk about it, but it's time to be about it. And so we really broke that down into kind of the categories of executing the plan that you already have in place. And we also broke that down into, what if that plan falls apart? What do I do? And we really challenged all of our viewers and listeners to really say, if I give up on my passion and I don't put the right hustle and grind into it, and even if something goes wrong, like whose fault is it when it falls apart? Like it might not be my fault that it fell apart, but it will be my fault if I don't reach my goal, right? Because I got to keep going. And so we really kind of stuck on that. We had some really great feedback from everybody who's there for that live. Check out that episode. It's still in our list of videos, but a great episode there. And we really capped that episode off with our last guest, who a lot of people have said, wow, one of our best guests, if not the best, because of his ability to tell his story and take us through the idea that I've done everything that I'm supposed to do. Man, I worked for free. I got the right internships. Like I did everything, right? I get to Salt Lake City.
True hustler. True hustler.
and the job is gone, man. Like it's gone. And there's, like he said, there was a lot of crying and sadness, but he didn't give up. He didn't go home. He said, I'm here. I'm here at the Olympics. Like, I'm here. How do I turn this into an opportunity? And at first it didn't look like it was going to turn into anything, right? He shoveling snow on the top of a freaking building, right? So that other companies could do their shoots. But the reality is that hustle and grind inside of him never stopped. And it broke his way. He got the right opportunity. And the minute he got that opportunity, what did he do? He hustled and grind for that. Got himself to LA. And then he talked about, all the courses that he could take that no one else was willing to take, right? And just the idea of going the extra mile, hustling, and then the grind of doing that same activity over and over again so they can get the success, and really putting that execution into place, right? And, that sign on the back of the wall that says hustling is like, it's really the only thing that you can control that leads to success, right? Is what are you willing to put into it? And he was willing to put into it. What he showed through his example of hustle and grind is I was willing to put my all into it. I was willing to give it my all. And he continues to do that today, and that's why he's in the position he is with one of the most recognizable brands in the world. And so I think the ideas around hustle and grind is really just getting it done. Don't make excuses. There can be situations that get in your way. Fine. How do I get around them? But never quitting on your passion and your dream. And I thought that was a great way to kind of end our series, because I think, Mike, it doesn't epitomize everything we've been trying to talk about from the very first day of like pandemic prospering up until now.
it captures everything.
Yeah.
It captures everything.
Yeah, and that's really it. So, thank you for we hope that you've taken a lot out of this recap and the episodes. And if you want any more detail, all of the episodes are connected to our YouTube /Realize Now. Go in there. There's a video log of every episode. You can see on each episode who's on that episode and what it's about right there on the cover, on the thumbnail. So if you're looking for a specific episode, just go straight into that. Check it out. But season 1 is a wrap, Mike. It's a wrap.
It's donezo. It's donezo. So, yeah, it's... in 30 episodes, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, 30 episodes, man.
Crazy.
It's a wrap. Now, just so you guys know what to anticipate for season 2, while we're down, you know how it goes when you're making shows. You complete a season and then you get a couple reruns. So we're gonna show some reruns. We're gonna show our some of our most favorite episodes. So we're gonna be really good there, right? Like we're gonna be really, really cool there. Show you some of the stuff that we really love. And hopefully you guys can join us at the FPP training conference. And you can do it virtually. You don't have to fly to Orlando like we are. But if you want to, hey, register and get on down there. But
get it done.
Get it done. Get it done. But you can join online and watch us live there. We're going to be focusing on really... It'll also be kind of a stepping stone to our second season, which is really going to be focused on leadership. And our focus on that episode is going to be focused around inclusion. Do you have an inclusive environment? And right, so we'll share more information as time comes. We're going to do a live, maybe 2 before then, before we go to Orlando. What do you think, Mike? Drop some live.
Oh yeah.
Make sure we're engaging with the folks.
It's anxiety provoking for me, but absolutely, I'm with it.
Do another live with you guys and have some fun with you to keep our faces in your minds, and also share what's going on because we're doing some really great things. Look out for some training courses that will be hitting the training airwaves, I guess, relatively soon on some of these topics and other topics. But we're really looking for a monster into 2021 and starting off 2022 with a bang. So we look forward to seeing you guys at our lives. We look forward to you guys being able to check us out at the conference, which we will have more information about soon. And we look forward to you joining us back for season 2 when it kicks off. Mike, I'm going to let you have the last word. Talk to the people.
Go ahead and make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Text us. Send us something. And that's all I got to say.
See you later, guys.